Okay, so thank you everyone for joining me again this week. Yeah, today with these lunar eclipse energies, I must say it's feeling a little uncomfortable. Certainly for me, I've been feeling uncomfortable for most of the weekend. Yeah, I don't really know how to explain it other than there's this bubbling frustration that's wanting to kind of burst. So I've been sitting with that for most of today, just really feeling into it and saying, okay, well, what is going on here? What is happening? What is this that's bubbling up? And then sitting quietly preparing for the webinar today. I kind of tapped into the energies and got a sense of what's happening. This eclipse is the final in a season that started in the beginning of June. So we have been through quite a process of transformation since that first lunar eclipse happened. And for many of us, we've been on a journey for a long time. It's been a long process of awakening and healing and expansion, and then more awakening and more healing and more expansion. And it just means, we just keep, I've always kind of joked and said the universe holds out a bunch of carrots and says, come on, here you go, come and get the carrots, and then moves the carrots every time you get there. And it really does feel like that. We feel like we've just reached some sort of important space or plateau, and suddenly it gets uncomfortable again, and suddenly we're being pushed to shift or change or transform or heal or awaken to something else. And so, as we reach this final eclipse in this particular season, I think it's that kind of frustration that is bubbling up. Is like we need the world to be different now. I said to someone last week, I'm exhausted. My soul is exhausted. I don't, it's like almost like we need the fruits of everything that we've been going through to start emerging, so that it can give us the will or the desire or the push that we need to keep going. So we need some of those carrots now, would be good. So that, that's kind of what I'm feeling. And then, looking into the energies of where we are right now, and then what we're moving into in this week, there is this, what I'm feeling is this connection that is happening, that is sparking or activating a new creative force within us. So then I got quite excited about that, because I thought, okay, well, maybe this is the carrot, is this new creative energy that is bubbling, and maybe that's what I'm feeling. I've labeled it as frustration, but I think actually, maybe it's this creative energy that is starting to bubble, that's starting to activate and starting to awaken. And so when I was looking into the energies, that's what I was seeing, is that, there's this new energy that we're being given access to. And I think that there is, as I felt into that energy, I felt this sudden resistance as well. And I kind of felt, okay, what's that resistance? Moving into the collective, what is that resistance? And the resistance kind of presented itself as these, I suppose, concerns or fears or worries or anxieties that we are moving into a completely new world. And that new world, we don't really know how to play in it. We don't know how to be in it. We've had lifetimes of experience, lifetimes of being men and women and warriors and nuns and monks and priests and servants and royalty and tribes people and shamans and medicine people. And, we've had lifetimes of all of these experiences that we've brought with us into who we are today. And so every time we are faced with something new in our lives, there's an automatic kind of pause in us that goes, okay, I know this feels familiar. I've done this in those lifetimes. So I draw on that, wisdom. I draw on that, that patterning and that understanding that I gained in those lifetimes of experience. And I draw that into now, and I start working through what I'm presented with using the past information. But we're stepping into a space now where there is no past information. This is completely new. This is not something where we can say, I've done this before. I know how this game works. We've never played this game before. This is completely new. We are not drawing on the past. We're not drawing on that old experience to help us in moving forward. So it is the space of uncertainty where on the one side, there's this huge excitement. We're stepping into this new world. We're stepping into this new reality. It's everything that we've been working towards for our entire lives. Here it is, fantastic. Oh, I don't know how to do this. And it's a bit like, put on the brakes a little bit. I need to figure this out. And the energy is saying, you can't figure it out. You just got to keep going. You just got to move forward. So it is this real push-pull type energy. And what we need to do inside of ourselves is to resolve those fears and those anxieties about stepping forward and failing, or making a mistake, or taking the wrong path, or stepping into the wrong relationship, or stepping into the wrong new career, or we've got to release and allow ourselves to resolve those anxieties and fears, so that we don't create unnecessary obstacles moving forward, because those obstacles are just actually going to create suffering. And we're moving beyond the suffering that we've had to endure in this lifetime and all the others. We're moving beyond that. However, it also, there is us and what we individually are working through, and then there's that world around us that is in complete chaos and turmoil and confusion. And I'm almost seeing that happening, or that confusion and turmoil happening more now that we're coming out of these lockdown phases than it was in lockdown. A lot of people are, and what I've seen is a lot of people, lockdown happened and they either went and said, well, this is giving me the opportunity to relax, to pause, to reflect, or they just went gun blazing. I've got to work even harder now to make everything happen and make my life, my work continue, etc., etc. So you have these two extremes that happen in lockdown. So as people emerge out of it, those extremes are reacting in different ways. So the people that have had the rest and the reflection, they're stepping into this with a greater sense of ease, somewhat, not completely. And then the others who have worked themselves to death during lockdown are coming out of it completely exhausted. And I seem to vacillate between the two. At one point I'm completely exhausted and think, I'm not doing anything anymore. And then the other part of me is rearing to go because there's all this new stuff that I want to be doing. And I think it's important that we're aware of that, so that we, again, like I spoke about last week, is we work with the flow of the energies, the flow that is happening within us, but also the collective flow and the universal flow. So there are these different streams of energy that move in and around us, and we need to start really becoming conscious of what are those streams and where are they taking us and what do they hold. If we step too much into the collective stream, we get sucked into the turmoil and the chaos. If we get sucked too much into the universal stream, which actually just happened to me a moment ago, and I really did feel like I was going to tip over, we can feel a little ungrounded and unbalanced and off kilter. So we really need to find ourselves in the center of our own stream, find that balance between the collective and the universal flows of energy that move around us and through us, but really find our grounding within ourselves, which also can be challenging because a lot of people are used to finding their safety and their security and their grounding space in something or someone. And that we cannot do. The only place we can find it now is within ourselves. So it's finding those new ways of being, which are also creating new habits. One of the things that I thought that was quite interesting when I was tapping in today is that there is a real rebalancing that is happening between our masculine and feminine energies. It's and that kind of rebalancing is something that I don't know, we work with all the time, but it seems that it's really becoming a key factor in how we move forward. And if we look at the masculine and feminine energies, I know we've discussed it before, the feminine energy is the space, is that space of what I term the great mystery. It's that intuitive space, that intuitive bubble that we step into within ourselves, where we can access inspiration, ideas, vision. This is where we get our vision for our lives and for what we need to be doing. And then we use the masculine force within us to harness that energy and to start creating, to start building, to start making things happen. So we're realigning those parts of ourselves so that we can actually start to consciously work in that way with these two energies. And for most of us, it's an unconscious process that happens. Now we're having to make it a conscious process. And I'm certainly feeling this real, I'm being kind of nudged quite regularly, just to make time for those individual aspects of me, to make time for the feminine aspect of me, which is to sit, to be still, to imagine, to dream, to vision, to meditate, to find that stillness. I'm being told I've got to make space for that stillness, because I am tempted. I just keep going until I fall over, and then that's when I fall into the feminine and kind of recharge and regenerate, and then I come back into that masculine and go, which is, it has not served me at all my whole life. I can give you many examples of where my life that pattern of behavior has not served me. So I have had to learn, especially in the last 7 or 8 years, that I can't do that. I have to make time for myself and for that feminine part of me. So it's a challenge that we need to become aware of in ourselves, and something we really need to focus on. Because if we cannot draw on the past experiences that we've had to move into our future, where are we going to get the information? Where do we get the insights, the understanding, the clarity, the step-by-step process that says this is what you need to do next? Where do we get that? We don't get it from this wealth of information that sits in our past. So we have to find it inside of ourselves, and that is found in the feminine. So once we have access to that information, then we can use that masculine force to step forward and start doing what the feminine has told us we need to do. So it is, I'm certainly being shown that this is a practice that we need to do each day. And again, you got to fit it into the rhythm of your life, of your day-to-day life. So how do we do that? That's always a challenge. I always have very good intentions of meditating, and often don't find the time. And then by the time I've got the time, I'm too tired and I go to sleep in the meditation. So what I've learned to do is to combine my exercising with my meditation. So I do things like I'll go for a long walk on the beach, or a long walk on the mountain, or in the forest, and I use that time to really tune into myself and to tap into that aspect of me. I also allow my yoga practice to be that, and I've got a thing where an app that you can set the time for your yoga, and you can set the time for your what's it called at the end? The sadhana? No, I don't know, I can't remember. The rest bit, the best bit, the rest bit at the end. And I just set that timer for a little bit longer so that I can allow that, access to that insight. And it's amazing. In 3 minutes, I can get a whole lot of step-by-step, this is what you need to do. So I've learned to have a pen and paper next to me. So really start looking into your life and seeing where can you work with these two energies, where can you consciously work with them, activating the feminine and then allowing your masculine to draw that in. And the key part in that as well is that these practices need to have a spiritual component, because it is our spiritual aspect that has the insight, the guidance, and the wisdom for us moving forward. It is not the human part of us that has those answers. It is the spiritual aspect of us, our soul, that has that information. So we need to make time to tap into that part. And I think it's also important to just point out, don't get caught up in the how. That understanding of, okay, you know, you get the guidance, this is what you need to do. And immediately as humans, we go, there's no way, I can't do that. And I do it myself. I'll make 1,000 excuses. I mean, I've got children. How am I expected to do that? I've got all these responsibilities, lots of excuses. When actually, when I sit quietly and I look at how do I adjust and shift things in myself and in my life to accommodate these changes, they can happen. So we need to be aware that we don't get caught up in the how is this going to happen? How am I going to do all of this? We just need to start doing it. And everything else around us will adjust. And I think, you know, if we look back, certainly, I mean, I feel like the last 20 years of my life have just been this breaking through barriers, breaking through limitations, breaking through the walls, whether those have been my own and ones that sit inside of me, whether they have been the ones that come from my family, whether they've been ones that come from my society, that I've been brought up in, the culture that I've been brought up in, the country that I've been brought up, whatever it is, I feel like I've continually been pushing through all of these obstacles in my way, and having to overcome so much in order to achieve what it is that I've set out to achieve. And so there is this part of me that kind of goes, oh, I can't believe I'm going to have to do this again. But actually what I was shown and what I was told is that there is so much ease as we move forward. It is not the past. And we have to keep reminding ourselves we are not living the way that we have lived in the past. This is not the same. The obstacles are not going to be there. If we are following our intuition, if we are listening to that guidance, the obstacles do not exist, except in our minds. So we need to be very, very aware of that. Has anyone got any questions before I go on to something else? Okay. Hi, who's that?
Lynn? Yeah, I just have this feeling that I can't breathe properly unless I breathe right down into my feminine part. And then
Yes.
when I bring it up, then it's like teaching me to breathe again differently. And that's how it's bringing the whole feminine part up. And then it's easier.
Yes.
But if I'm not doing that, it feels like I'm blocked just right here and there's nothing happening underneath. So I don't know whether anybody else is feeling like that, but that's how I feel. And it's like the calm before a tsunami. You
Yes.
know, something's taking me back and saying, okay, do it differently or else, you know. Yeah, that's what it feels like anyway.
I think that is key, you know, that is also key to how we learn to work with that energy, because that feminine energy certainly sits in our base, that base area. So we need to access it, and working with the breath is the easiest way to start drawing it up and start to activate it. So I've seen Nancy's had a similar feeling about the breathing. And sometimes if you can, Sometimes the breathing can become difficult when there are energetic blocks in the body that need to be kind of pushed through, and we can use our breath to start moving those blocks and releasing those blocks. Yeah, some breathing exercises, you know, maybe that's what you need to incorporate into your practice every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Might be that, yeah.
Hey, Kate.
Hi, Nancy.
What resonated with me was what you said about the grounding. It kind of a light went on because I was walking from my living room to the kitchen and tripped over something that's there. It's not like something was in the way, and literally fell to the ground. I wasn't hurt. It was a little scary because getting back up is not a pretty sight. But I'm here by myself. But it was, and I thought to myself, well, that's weird. I walked that path, how many, you know, and I never trip. And so when you said that, I went, oh, I'm not concentrating on grounding. So thank you. That scared me a little because.
Yeah, I think it is key. I mean, I often notice when I'm particularly ungrounded, I walk into things and trip over my own feet, literally. Yeah, thanks, Megan. A few weeks ago, you spoke of trust. When it gets tight, recalling the need to trust helps. I agree. Yeah, that trust is essential in this time, especially when we feel like, you know, we can't really see the wood for the trees or what we're doing moving forward. I got a email from Nancy this morning. Thank you for that. And I'm just going to read what you wrote and then chat about that. This morning I was given the message again that faith was about to be tested and tried. This is a message I felt bubble up for some time. I was told that we have created through our free will. I was told that all that we have created through our free will be brought to light for all to see from Creator God's eyes, to be cleared and released from all timelines. There will be many deaths. Many of these deaths are simply aspects of ourselves that no longer serve who we are and created in the image and likeness of. Many of us have never claimed nor remembered this fact. We are powerful, sovereign, divine beings of light, capable and abundant in all ways. I was reminded of the verse in Corinthians 1:16, be alert and on your guard, stand firm in your faith, be courageous, and let everything you do be done in love. Are you also receiving similar insights? I love that. Be alert and on your guard, stand firm in your faith, be courageous, and let everything you do be done in love. For me, that just says it all. Because that is exactly where we need to be and how we need to be operating in this time. I think that we have been working towards clearing and releasing all of these layers, all of these projections that we've placed on ourselves and on others. And I think that those are certainly what has been dying away in the last few years. It's been intensified in this time that we're moving through now. Certainly 2020 is, someone's turned the dial up and things have gotten really intense in that part, in that way. And I interestingly enough was having a conversation with a friend today and made the comment that I'm surprised at how many people are afraid of death. Because death is a natural and normal part of life. It shouldn't really be something that we're afraid of. It should be something that is celebrated and it kind of welcomed. And I've always looked at certainly the kind of Western medicine view on health and healing. And I've always been quite fascinated at how determined they are to save life. And often when it's not necessary and it's not required. I have threatened to haunt my children for the rest of their days if they ever try and force me to stay. Yeah. Megan, we don't mourn the sunset. No, we don't. We don't sit there and think that the world is coming to an end because the sun is going down. We know that it will rise again the following day. It will be a completely new day, a completely new time, a completely new space. And I think that we're moving through this time and being offered the opportunity to maybe understand what death really means and the transformational process that it offers us. And that's kind of what I was thinking when I was reading this email, is that as we move through transformation, it is death. An old part of us is dying, an old way of being is dying. And from that death, something new emerges. And I think that is an important aspect of where we are now. The amount of fear and anxiety that is being felt by so many people at this time while we are facing a pandemic, a virus, whatever it is that you want to term it. And I think it's important that we look into ourselves and we say, well, why am I afraid of death? Why am I afraid of transformation? There are a couple of people that I've worked with who have had the virus, and some of whom were sick for a few days, got through it, no complications, been absolutely fine. And then there are others who the consequences of that illness have been extreme. And one particular person that I worked with, her life was incredibly stressful. And even before she got ill, the work-life balance was non-existent. I mean, her working and her career was everything, and it was all that she focused on. And it involved a lot of traveling. It involved a lot of moving around. There wasn't time or space for her to have her own kind of sanctuary at home. And it was how she had been taught to operate in the world and didn't really know any difference. And as a result of getting this virus, she has now had to make significant changes because her health is really, really bad now. And these changes are meaning that there's a total overhaul of her life and how she's lived until now. So in some ways it's been really positive, and in other ways it's been really shocking. But I think that part of what we're looking at now is, and working through now, is these transformational processes that we're all being called to move through. And when we're stepping into this energy today of this full moon lunar eclipse, the meeting of the sun and the moon is offering us a profound opportunity for transformation. If we look at these two aspects and how they are represented within us, it is the feminine and the masculine meeting together, and a transformational process happening in that union. And if we go back to what I was saying earlier about the need to start consciously working with these two parts of ourselves, again, it's being drawn to our awareness and our attention in all ways. And faith and trust is key to helping us move through this time. Any other questions that we have?
Kate, I think it's hard to be in the middle of something like this because you can't see beyond the moment you're in. And so the faith and trust is important, but I've had a couple of people say to me, I think this is how it's going to be for the rest of our lives. And I'm like, well, maybe not, but you can't really say how it is going to be. And so
I think it's also, yeah, I mean, I have people who kind of say to me, oh, well, things are going back to normal. Really? Normal? Wearing a mask is normal? You know, being limited in your movement is normal. Not being able to travel is not, you know, this isn't normal. And then I have other people who are devastated by the fact that there's so much change and terrified by the fact of there is all this change. And I think it's we need to remember, and I spoke about it, I can't remember if it was last week or the week before, that experience that I had growing up in South Africa and moving throughout the transition that we went through from the apartheid government and into a democratic government. And you know, that process took a couple of years. And I think it's the same here. I think we're in for a few years of transformation and change. I don't think that how we are today is going to be how we are moving forward. I think that we've got to take each moment as it comes, each day as it comes. And for some of us, you know, the changes are going to be quite significant and dramatic. And for other people, it's a time we've been waiting for. You know, the landscape of the world is shifting and adjusting for who we are. It's meeting us for a change rather than us always having to fit to adjust and fit into what is the landscape out there. So I think, you know, we've got these extremes of experience, and there isn't one way that is the right way. I think we've got to look at each of us individually and our circumstances and our situation. You know, I had someone on my Instagram post comment and say how she was feeling and was this normal, and I kind of haven't responded because I'm like, I can't answer if that's normal. I don't know you. I don't, you know, I've never worked with you. I have no idea if that's normal, because there isn't one thing. You know, some people are riding these waves, lunar eclipse waves, and having a fantastic time. And then there are some of us who literally are crawling around on the floor trying to get grounded. So, you know, it's, no one way is the right way. And, you know, I think it's also how you perceive things. If you can move into a space of trust and faith, you know, ultimately then that everything that happens is good. I mean, one of the greatest teachings I ever got was in some of the darkest moments of my life is the message that I was given was the dark always serves the light. So even though it may look so terrible and it may look so dire and it may look like the world is ending, it's not. There is always the birth of something new that happens. We're not going to be sucked into the abyss of nothingness. There is always a positive aspect, a silver lining to every dark cloud. And when we step into that place of faith and trust, then we can feel that and we know that. And I, you know, even when I read all these things on social media, or people send me horrific YouTube videos and conspiracies and you know, that if possibly if I wasn't the person I am today, I might be absolutely terrified. I sit there and I keep saying, and I watch these things and I engage with it, and I keep saying, well, in some way that the dark is serving the light. We need to remember that. Anita's got a quiz. Does it matter if I'm not feeling good given the energetic significance of today, i.e. the closing? Anita, I'm not feeling so good myself. You know, I think that if you can imagine, I got this image earlier today when I was muttering under my breath about how sick of all of this I was. And I just got this image of, you know, if you imagine a portal, it's like a round space, and we're standing in this round space, and it's contained by something some sort of structure around us, and in there is all this energy that is swirling around and literally turning us upside down and inside out. And we're going to be kind of thrown out of it once we've been turned upside down and inside out enough times, and we're going to be thrown out of this portal and into whatever is on the other side. So we are in that space, and it is uncomfortable. There are things that are bubbling to the surface. My body's been very uncomfortable in the last 2 days, lots of weird pains and aches, and emotionally, old stuff coming up. And I think we've just got to allow the process and to go through it, rather than worrying whether it's good or bad, or whether we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. I think we need to trust that we are doing exactly what we need to be doing always, even if it is uncomfortable. And I think that, again, we've got to remember that transformation is not a comfortable process, especially if there is any anxiety and fear around death and change. Those things are kind of coming up. So I think that, I wish that I could say we're going to come out of this portal and, I get this vision of a beautiful green field with, gentle breeze and the sun shining and everything's lovely. No, it's not that. The reality is we're still in this world. We're still faced with everything that is still here, and the issues and the problems and the challenges. But the transformation that we are going through is going to give us the strength and the energy that we need moving forward, the insights that we need moving forward. So I hope that answers your question. And do you need to make sure that you somehow feel good, balanced, etc. by the end of the day? No, this energy is going to be with us for the next few days. I think it intensifies as we move through the eclipse, the alignment, which I think has already happened. I think it's intensified, but it'll start to ease off over the next few days. And yeah, it's just not comfortable. Thanks, Lynn. Yes, the caterpillar decomposes in the cocoon, but look how it ends up. And imagine they're decomposing. I mean, they literally become mush. Lorraine, I have a lot of messages about us as light workers are here to help to pull this hidden darkness to the surface for people to see it. And then once seen, it can be transmuted, healing the earth in the process with divine light. Exactly. Yeah.
Kate, I just want to go back to your comment about the stuff that you're receiving on Instagram and scary stuff, all the doom and glooming that's going on there. I watch all sorts of programs, but what I believe we're seeing here is that anxiety and fear being expressed as anger and violence. And we have to actually hold a space of compassion for those people that don't know how to deal with their anxiety and fear other than with anger and violence. So open the compassion taps and see if we can't help everybody else out there.
Exactly. I agree. I think it is exactly that. And I think that we also forget that there is a collective trauma that runs through our collective consciousness. And some people have chosen, on a soul perspective, to harness that energy and to process it and transform it through themselves and through their own lives. It isn't necessarily that person is evil, or that person is bad, or that person is wrong. It's that these incredible people have chosen this stuff to transform and transmute it through themselves. And if we can offer that space of compassion, we really do help them to transform it into from darkness and into light. So thanks for that. I agree. Yeah, so Lorraine, that also ties into what you said. Once it can be seen, once it is seen, it can be transmuted. I think also, we've lived with so much darkness on this planet, and certainly My sense is that part of humanity's growth and evolution has been to go to the depths of the dark, to go into the depths of what is the worst of the worst that we can do. And I think we've done that a few times, certainly in this century, certainly since the beginning of the 19th century. And you know, if we look back at history and we see the wars and we see the devastation and we look at the consequences of that, we look at the poverty that exists, the trauma that people live with, that is inherited and not only created in their lifetime. If we look at all of that, we can see that this is what is emerging in us now to be healed, to be transformed. And I think it's part of this transitionary phase that we're moving through. And for me, the key is, I've been teased for most of my life. I've got brothers. I don't have a sister. I've got two brothers. I grew up with only boys. All my cousins are boys. Certainly the ones I grew up with, and so I was teased forever about being an emotional woman, and it is a real insult to be called a real, an emotional woman, according to these boys in my family. And one of the things that I've always struggled with, I shouldn't have struggled with it, but I have, is that I get really emotional about things. So if someone tells me a sad story, then I will cry. If someone dies, even though I'm not necessarily affected by the person dying, I'm more affected by the people that are left behind and picking up their sadness. So, it took me a long time to understand that that's just about being an empath and feeling and processing all of that stuff. And it took me a long time and many, many years to finally work with it rather than push it away and resist it. So, these waves of emotion will come through, sometimes I'll be on Facebook and I read a story and the next minute I have to close my computer because I've got to have a little weep about something that's happened. And I suddenly realized that is part of what we do, is that we process these energies, this pain, this trauma, the suffering through that in that way. And so it's something that I've learned to kind of work with rather than pretending it doesn't exist or not facing it or not feeling it. And there are a lot of us that do that, and we must remember not to suppress the waves of emotion as they come up. And sometimes that emotion is anger. Just have to warn you, it's not always sadness. Sometimes it's pure rage and anger. Again, bring it up, work with it, allow it to be transformed within you, process it, processing it for the collective and not just yourself. Sure, I feel like I've talked a lot today. Any other questions? Okay. All right, so then maybe we can move into a nice meditative space. I'm really hoping that the meditation today gets us out of any kind of uncomfortable space that we're in. So get comfy. And then when you're ready, closing your eyes. And using your breath, draw yourself into the space. Drawing yourself into awareness of the space that you're in now. And using your breath Allow yourself to really settle into your body. As we discussed earlier, breathe, try breathing into that base. And allow yourself to settle into that base. If we look at our chakras, the base chakra is the foundation on which our energy system operates from, rests on. So that base needs to be a comfortable space for us. Just using your breath, allow yourself to settle into it. Allow yourself to be held by it. When we're connecting to our base, we're grounding ourselves within ourselves. We're not grounding ourselves to the earth through that space. We're grounding ourselves within ourselves. And we connect to the deep and ancient part of ourselves. You might feel that energy in your base, the base of your spine. You might feel it as a warmth or a tingling. You might feel nothing at all. Just allow yourself to connect to it and allow it to present in whatever way it needs to present itself. And when you feel ready, allow the energy of your base to begin to move down your legs and into your feet. And as it moves into your feet, feel the energy of the earth rise up to meet it. And in this way, you're grounding yourself to the earth, stabilizing yourself on her body, in her body. And allow that energy now to move up your legs and into your torso, and drawing it into your heart center. And allow it to rest in your heart center. And move your awareness to the top of your head, to your crown, to the crown chakra that sits there. And just allow yourself to become aware of the energy of the crown. And how this energy is connected to the masculine force, to the masculine energy within you. Feel the movement of the energy in the crown. You might feel a warmth or a tingling. You might feel nothing. Just allow yourself to become aware of it. And now become aware of the universal source energy moving down from the heavens to meet the energy of your crown. Feel these energies blending and merging together. You may feel your crown chakra opening and expanding. Now allow a blending of these two energies to move down your body and into your heart chakra, into your heart center. Allowing the energy of the earth and your base to meet with the energy of your crown and the universal source energy. Feel these energies weaving together. Merging to become one. The yin and the yang, the light and the dark. Perfect balance. And now allow the perfect balance of these energies to begin to flow throughout your entire body and being, filling every space, every molecule, every cell, every organ. This perfect balance. Feel your body and being coming into alignment. Allow all that is no longer needed or required to be dissolved by this energy, transmuted, transformed. And allow this energy to expand outwards, to encompass you in a bubble of light, love, protection. And feel yourself settling into a space of peace. And in the space of peace, knowing that everything is exactly as it should be, that you are exactly as you should be in this moment. And breathe that into your being. Breathe that awareness into your being. And feel this fears dissolving. Feel the resistance melting away. And feel yourself opening to the new world that stands before you. When you are ready, gently breathing yourself back into the space, into this time, to this awareness, allowing yourself to keep and maintain a sense of peace. Taking a few deep breaths and moving your fingers and your toes. You can open your eyes when you're ready. So what I was told at the end of that meditation is that as we access these spaces of peace and serenity, calmness and acceptance within us, we imprint the memory of that feeling within us. And so when we move into a space of anxiety or fear or panic or worry or uncertainty, we can actually just take a moment to allow ourselves to remember that feeling of peace and to bring that into that present moment. So it is important to try and remember that, you know, work with it. When you're starting to feel overwhelmed or a little bit hurried or rushed, just take a moment, stop, remember this feeling, and it'll come back. And it will inform how you operate moving forward. Because as that, you said in the email, Nancy, I'll read it again. Corinthians 1, verse 16. Be alert and on your guard. Stand firm in your faith. Be courageous and let everything you do be done in love. That is it. That's where our focus needs to be. Yeah, faith is peace. Thanks, Nancy. Lorenza, I was taught once to try to live in a meditative state rather than just meditate at specific times. Exactly. Yeah. I think it's the Buddhist teachings that teach do everything with awareness and in that space of meditation, including washing the dishes, or they have some analogy of washing dishes. Barbara, filled with lots of yellow light. Oh, that's beautiful. Like that. I'm certainly feeling a little better. Good. Yeah, the imprint feedback is powerful. It is. Yeah, it's a very necessary process actually to imprint ourselves with things like peace and forgiveness and non-judgment and compassion, and you know, especially as we move through these times of transition and as we move into the new world, we cannot operate in the same way anymore. And most of us, because of the lives we've lived and the things that we've experienced, have forgotten what it feels like to be in that space of joy and acceptance and non-judgment. And I mean, I always remember, you know, my children when they were little, and I wasn't my best self, and would scream and shout at something they'd done. And I always remember them just looking at me with this expression of just love, even though I was being horrible. And yeah, that's the kind of space we need to be in, you know, be like the children that we once were, where we just accepted everything without judging and criticizing, including ourselves. You ask a small child what they think about themselves, and they truly do think that they are wonderful. Lorraine, seeing that we can also use this imprinting access for the collective in the moment when things arise that are difficult to process for those around us in addition to ourselves. Exactly, because as we imprint us, so we impact everything around us. I think it was Gandhi that said, be the change you wish to see in the world. This is it. We shift the collective by being it, not doing it. Okay, thanks everyone. I look forward to seeing you all next week. And thankfully I've recorded this one. So if you want to listen to that meditation again, it'll be on the website. I'm very glad I remembered to. Won't forget again. Have a fantastic week, everyone. Thank you all.